Cosmic breathing. Sorry it's taking me so long to wrap up this solar flare stuff, but I have one more consideration to run past you. I have written about this years ago, but not mentioned it much lately. If you are interested in learning about and tuning into solar flares and their effects on us psychologically, there's something else you might want to know, and I call this cosmic breathing. But if that's too direct, we could just call it cosmic flux. There are two main types of cosmic radiation that reach us. The first, obviously, is radiation from the sun, and that follows in intensity roughly an 11-year cycle. When the solar cycle is at its strongest, like now, when it's at its peak, we have a sharp increase in solar flares. This increase during the solar maximum acts like a giant shield that wards off another kind of radiation that's coming from, not from the sun, but from deep, deep space, places like the center of the galaxy and elsewhere. It's called cosmic rays. Now, cosmic rays are super high energy particles that come from outside our solar system. And they're secondary particles. They directly penetrate and impact the Earth's atmosphere, occasionally reaching the surface of the Earth. And cosmic rays are anti-correlated, the opposite of the 11-year solar cycle, which simply means that when the sunspot solar cycle is at its peak, like now, the cosmic ray particle penetration is at a minimum. And the reverse is also true. When the sunspot cycle is at its minimum, at its weakest, cosmic ray penetration of Earth's atmosphere is at its strongest. In other words, we are alternately pummeled by the extremes of solar radiation on one hand and cosmic ray influx on the other. So I hope that's clear. It's also important to understand that Earth's magnetosphere protects the Earth from both kinds of radiation, solar and cosmic rays. In the image shown here, you can see how the magnetosphere, like the bow of a ship, envelopes and protects Earth from ready access by solar injections and cosmic rays. They're two different kinds of influxes. Of course, I tend to think that both of these influxes, they're coded with information for change. They carry information that affects us. They are like different kinds of cosmic vitamins, and we get dosed with one and then with the other alternately. In this way, the cosmos is both our doctor and our life keeper. Because we have them and are still alive, I mean, we survive these things, it's obvious that we need both kinds of vitamins to exist. And it's been pointed out that large-scale systems like the galaxy and even our solar system, they require a constant flow of information to continue in order to cohere. That means for them literally to hold together and to not begin to collapse. The science of such information is called cybernetics, and it's the study of regulatory systems that allow us to remain the same while undergoing change. And that could be a definition of life. In other words, cybernetics is the process of how something becomes different and yet remains the same. Our physical body requires cybernetics to remain regular and to not morph into something weird. Now, nothing is more regular than solar radiation, sunshine, except when it's not. Then when it's not, we have discussions like we're having now with solar flares, conversations centered on sudden solar change and how to take it gracefully. All I'm doing here is pointing out the existence of this great cosmic breathing, this 11-year cycle, such that every 5.5 years we're breathing in either solar change or cosmic change. Because they exist, and, we've had them forever, we must, by that definition, need and be used to both kinds of information. We could also say that one is local, solar, and it's about ourself, and one is much more distant, the cosmic rays. This current solar maximum in 2013 is more disruptive, perhaps more obvious to the self, but that does not mean that the cosmic rays are not just as seminal, but perhaps not as direct in effect. Again, there are different kinds of vitamins. As you can see, all of this can be endlessly complex, but also ultimately simple. I can't speak to what destiny holds, but I do know that certain parts of us will not be denied. We could call them our talents. When everything else fails, the last to go would be those talents or urges that in each one of us just keep on coming. They are the strongest. And our talents are where each of us is, we're each a diehard. It's to our advantage to learn what our particular talents are, and then attempt to position them so that they can be realized in this life. The traditional recipe for success has always been, not to hide our talent under a bushel. Remember that old quote? But to find a way to put our talent between us and a need that society has, and then let nature take its course. But to do this, many of us have to figure out what our talents are. And you'd think we would know, but often we can't distinguish between what are talents and what are just our hopes and dreams. What we wish were talents. Times of extreme solar change or personal catastrophes are useful, can be useful, helpful. When the self is shattered or vacated and is forced to reform, many of our so-called pipe dreams are lost along the way. This happens when someone close to us dies or something shatters our self so that we really don't know what we're doing for a few days. Self has to put itself back together again. But if we are patient, and if we watch our appetites return as the self patches itself together, our actual talents usually are the first to reappear. So simply take an inventory. What do you really want to do with your life? Let your talents be your guide.